This is London Broadcasting, the news and information voice of independent radio. Welcome to LBC. It's 6 o'clock, October the 8th. My name's David Jessel. This is the morning show, and here's the news.
This is Ken Guy with LBC News. The Middle East War. A meeting of the United Nations Security Council has been called in a bid to stop the fighting. It'll be held at 8:30 tonight, British time. The meeting was called after an urgent request from the United States early this morning. President Nixon has returned unexpectedly to Washington, cutting short his stay in Florida to take personal control of the American attempt to stop the war. Diplomatic sources say the Americans fear that more Arab states will join in the war if it is allowed to continue. Meanwhile, on the two main fronts at Suez and the Golan Heights, fighting still rages. Israel claims that several hundred Arab tanks are trapped in Sinai and that they have destroyed the Egyptian bridges across the canal. But they admit that Syria has gained a foothold in the Golan Heights and has advanced several kilometers. Israeli forces are continuing to roll towards the battlefront, and from a small village near the Golan Heights, Dick Grace sent us this report as the tanks rolled by.
Here comes another one, I think. No. Oh, this one has the gun facing forward. Two men staring out of the top turret. It's Main Street, actually, in more normal times, is like a main street anywhere. Traffic here is tanks, armored half-tracks, command vehicles, and jeeps. The stuff of an army on the move. That's because this town is hard by the frontier with the occupied Golan Heights. Here comes another tank. Tank commander gave a wave. The troops and vehicles have been moving through this town on the way to the front since Israel first started mobilizing its troops on the first day of the war. If I turn around, I can see puffs of white smoke on the hills on this side of the heights that face Israel proper, and they're from dulled explosions that one can hear from time to time. The soldiers here have been mobilized hastily, and some of them are still wearing dungarees or civilian shirts or T-shirts, and they're either going to change into uniform on the way to the front or else go fight in their dungarees. Traffic here is heavy, the heaviest it has been since the last war in 1967. One soldier told me this time it's going to be the last one. This is Richard C. Gross at a small town in northern Israel near the occupied Golan Heights of Syria.
Reports from the Suez front are conflicting, and Egyptian authorities say they are still continuing to pour troops across into Sinai. A communique said that Egyptian planes launched a successful attack on Israeli positions in central and northern Sinai. For a report on how the Arab side sees the conflict, here is Joe Fitchett in Beirut.
A Syrian military spokesman claims that Israeli airstrikes have failed to halt the advance of Syrian armor in the Golan Heights, but he gave no details about the situation on the ground. Syria claims it's shot down more than 30 Israeli jets. In South Lebanon, near the combat theater, reliable eyewitnesses say the Israelis are achieving air superiority over the Golan front. Large formations of American-made Phantom jets are sweeping over South Lebanon at low level to attack Syrian missile sites in the flat plain between the Golan Heights and the Syrian capital Damascus. Joe Fitchett, ABC News, Beirut.
The Egyptians and Syrians between them claim to have downed nearly 100 Israeli planes and destroyed 92 Israeli tanks in the last 2 days. The Israelis are claiming that more than a dozen Arab planes have been destroyed and helicopters, many tanks knocked out, and to have sunk at least 8 naval vessels. The time is 4.5 minutes past 6. American Sixth Fleet ships left Athens today for an area southeast of Crete, half a day's sail from the Suez Canal. The aircraft carrier Independence and up to 4 destroyers will remain a few hundred miles from the Middle East battle area. It blames Israel for the fighting and says it resolutely supports the Arab cause. But there was no demand for the United Nations to condemn Israel. Hundreds of Israelis stranded in Britain are trying to get home. The The only airline now flying to Israel is the Israeli airline LL, and a spokesman said that all flights were full and there is a long waiting list. The press attaché of the Israeli embassy in London says although all Israelis under 55 are on the reserve list, no one from Britain has been called up, though many were returning for army service of their own accord. Britain's first commercial radio station went on the air just a few minutes ago, and you're listening to it. London Broadcasting Company, an all-news and information service for London, will operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The company will also be supplying a news service to 60 other commercial stations, which are to open in Britain, several of them within a few months. Messages of goodwill have poured in to London Broadcasting, including messages from the Prime Minister, Mr. Heath, Mr. Wilson, Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Thorpe, Leader of the Liberal Party, Lord Ayleston, Chairman of the Independent Broadcasting Authority, and Sir John Eden, Minister for Posts and Telecommunications. Messages have also been received from Sir Reginald Goodwin, Leader of the Greater London Council, and Sir Desmond Plummer, Opposition Leader of the GLC. A Soviet warship has fired a torpedo during a NATO exercise in the North Sea. The torpedo didn't hit any of the NATO ships, but a Royal Navy spokesman described it as a major incident. The torpedo was fired by the Cannon 52, a guided missile destroyer, after an explosion on board. She had been shadowing HMS Hermes, Britain's latest commando carrier. The blast was seen by British crew members and a fire followed in the Soviet vessel's starboard side. A Ministry of Defence spokesman said in London early this morning that the torpedo was fired, presumably to clear it from the vicinity of the fire on the Soviet vessel. There was certainly no suggestion in anybody's mind that the torpedo was fired at anyone. He described the Royal Navy spokesman's description of the incident as exaggerated. Mr. Heath will unveil his plans for Phase 3 of the government's campaign to tackle inflation later today. He'll announce the details at a press conference to be broadcast live on LBC at 2:30 this afternoon. In November of last year, Phase 1 declared a complete freeze on pay and prices. Phase 2 in February of this year pegged pay increases to £1 plus 4%. It also imposed certain controls on prices and profit margins. Our economics correspondent says that with the doubtful success of Phase 2 and the government's current economic unpopularity, Mr. Heath is expected to ease the pay side of the campaign and get tougher on prices. This could mean a strengthening of the powers of the Prices Commission. The Chrysler electricians at the Linwood plant in Renfrewshire will be working normally today pending the outcome of a mass meeting of workers at the Coventry factory on Tuesday. This decision means that fears of redundancy for 8,000 Chrysler workers in Britain have been temporarily allayed. On Tuesday, the 156 electricians in Coventry will vote on the plan to set up an independent inquiry into the dispute. If accepted, the inquiry will have to report within 14 days. The Coventry strikers will stay out until the findings of the inquiry are known. They are asking for a £250 a year increase. Under the present pay curbs, the management claims they can only allow £190. The headlines. Fighting in the Middle East continues. While the Israelis claim to be holding the Egyptians back, they admit that the Syrians have gained some ground. In Washington, President Nixon has rushed back to the American capital to take charge of U.S. efforts to end the conflict. Mr. Heath will unveil his plans for Phase 3 of the government's campaign to tackle inflation later today. A Soviet warship fired a torpedo yesterday during a NATO exercise in the North Sea. And Chrysler technicians at the Linwood plant will be working normally today, pending the outcome of a meeting of workers at the Coventry plant on Tuesday. And that's the news. Headlines at 20 minutes past 6. Next complete bulletin at 6:30.
I'm speaking to you from high up in the Royal Albert Hall in London. There's a huge crowd of celebrities here this morning, and they've all gathered in this historic building to join with the Bird's Eye Company celebrating the start of commercial radio in London. And now everyone turns towards the stage as the massed bands of the Grenadier and Irish Guards take their places alongside the City of London Ladies' Choir. And those screams for the Mauve Explosion arriving, closely followed by the Ink Spots and the Boston Symphony Orchestra. And there's absolute quiet now as the ceremony begins.
Your Highnesses, Your Grace, My lords, ladies and gentlemen, be upstanding with the Birdseye Company to welcome London Broadcasting.
Birdseye welcomes radio. Its classics, greats and singers. Good luck, commercial radio. From Birdseye, fish fingers.
This is the morning show, and I'm David Jessel. Well, here we are, the station that pushed all that nice music off the air. LBC is 10.5 minutes old, LBC time is 10.5 minutes past 6, and LBC time is as good as anyone else's. The weather outside is basically dark. It's 13 degrees centigrade, that's 55 degrees in English. The weather is fairly mild for the time of morning, and the immediate outlook is dry and cloudy. Well, we had planned to start by congratulating ourselves on being born, but the morning show is your update on the day, and whatever we may think, there are more important matters today than the fact that we've hit the airwaves. It's clearly a day dominated by two major stories: the Middle East war, of which it's day 3, and at home the new Phase 3 proposals in Mr. Heath's effort to blow us back on course economically. We must start, of course, with the war. Well, as in every war, the first casualty is truth. The censors snip, the correspondents are restricted in their movements. What we're bound to get, for the time being at least, is a confused and confusing jumble of speculation and comment as it comes into the LBC newsroom. And we'll be trying to fit the pieces together as they come in from our correspondents. But first, an on-the-spot report. You may have heard Richard Gross in the bulletin, and for a further report we asked him, first of all, how close he could get to the fighting.
I was about a mile from where soldiers would not allow us to go on to the actual Golan Heights. I was in a town in northern Israel. The Army will not allow me to say what town I was in. It was a small community from where I could plainly see planes going in to attack the Syrians on the heights. I could plainly see smoke, columns of smoke rising from the heights where the planes had dropped their bombs or shot their rockets.
Richard Gross there with an on-the-spot report from somewhere near the Golan Heights. Well, the time on LBC is just coming up to 17.5 minutes past 6. It's said that there are more Jews in New York than in the whole state of Israel, and it sounded like it last night as New York Jews from all over North America gathered outside the United Nations to demonstrate against what they saw as an invasion of Israel on Yom Kippur, the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. Brian McFadden was there.
Midwest, from Canada, from all over. They gathered in Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza across from the UN to sing traditional Israeli songs like this one and protest what they see as a treacherous act of aggression by the Arabs. People like Mrs. Manya Goss of Brooklyn feel that the U.S. has deserted Israel in its time of need.
And throughout the morning show we'll bring you news as it comes in, news and discussion on the political, military and diplomatic position.
Fabulous Cliff Danger makes no comment about Buitoni real ravioli. Buitoni's Italian recipe, stuffed with Italian tomato sauce, real egg, real wheat pasta, real beef, roast beef. Buitoni's world-famous real ravioli. He'd rather eat than talk.
Don't talk. Eat!
This is a message to all advertisers. Radio offers new opportunities, and media buying services offers radio experience and buying power. If you're an agency or an advertiser, and you want to talk to radio experts, call MBS, Media Buying Services.
KTEL presents Tchaikovsky's Waltz of the Flowers, now yours on Classics 100. A superb double album of over 100 minutes of fine music, 33 selections by many famous orchestras and conductors. The beautiful Blue Danube by Johann Strauss. Beethoven's famous Pathétique. Brahms' Hungarian Dance. And The Flight of the Bumblebee by Rimsky-Korsakov. These, together with the works of Mozart, Rossini, Schubert and Bizet, make Classics 100 a double album treasure. K-Tel Classics 100. Over 100 minutes of the world's greatest music on 2 stereo LPs. Only $2.99. Available at Boots, Woolworths, Smiths, Co-ops, and most department stores and record shops.
6:20 on London Broadcasting, and here are the headlines. Fighting in the Middle East continues. While the Israelis claim to be holding the Egyptians back, they admit that the Syrians have gained some ground. In Washington, President Nixon has rushed back to the American capital to take charge of United States efforts to end the conflict. Mr. Heath will unveil his plans for Phase 3 of the government's campaign to tackle inflation later today. A Soviet warship fired a torpedo yesterday during a NATO exercise in the North Sea. Chrysler technicians at the Linwood plant will be working normally today, pending the outcome of a meeting of workers at the Coventry plant on Tuesday. And a man is to appear at Oxted Magistrates Court this morning, charged with attempted murder following an incident in which 2 policemen were shot. News coming up, a full news bulletin in about 9 minutes.
Here's Frank Milligan on The Guardian.
Every morning, I have a cup of tea and The Guardian. The Guardian's the one that doesn't go cold. Right, why am I a Guardian reader? I'll tell you. Because The Guardian is the last real buccaneering newspaper left. It gets them jumping about, folks, no matter who's in power. What a world we're living in. It's hell out there, but in here, there's still some sanity left.
Get The Guardian, where there's still some sanity left.
Good morning if you've just joined us, and I'm joined at the moment in the studio by Mr. Benad Avital from the Israeli Embassy and Mr. Peter Mansfield, who's a correspondent who knows the Arab world well. He's now working for an organisation to promote Arab-British understanding. Well, perhaps I could ask you, Mr. Benad Avital, first. We don't need any reason for knowing why there is a conflict in the Middle East, but why now?
Well, we don't know why this attack came at this time, since we didn't initiate it, but it would appear that the Arab governments may have felt that this was an opportune moment, both in internal Arab terms and in international terms, to try and quickly grab off a large chunk of territory and hold on to it by the time a ceasefire is imposed in the area.
Well, as you may have noticed, we're on the air, and we'd like to thank all of you who've written in to us to wish us luck. People like Mr. Wallace Crevett of Reigate, and the Prime Minister, Mr. Edward Heath, from number 10.
The opening today of the London Broadcasting Company's station marks a new departure in British broadcasting. It's the first station of the Independent Broadcasting Authority's local radio service, and the first all-news radio station in this country. I'm sure its 24-hour service of news, information and comment is going to be of immediate value to Londoners, and eventually it will be of use to listeners to other stations throughout the United Kingdom who are going to receive a news service from this station. I'd like to wish the station, its staff and the I.B.A.'s local radio service every success.
And our thanks to the Prime Minister for finding time to record that birthday card. And equal thanks to the Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Harold Wilson, for his birthday message to LBC.
It is well known that the Labour Party have opposed the introduction of commercial broadcasting. But that in no way prevents me from offering my best wishes to the Independent Broadcasting News Service. Independent television news has rightly earned a reputation for its thoroughness, for its impartiality, and for the great service it gives to the nation. I have every confidence that the same will prove to be true from the outset with the independent news service which is now to be provided for radio. I'm particularly confident in that prediction because of the wise choice of an editor who I know will regard this as a job requiring dedication, and whose past record in journalism has shown his high degree of integrity, impartiality, and a desire to serve the public.
Mr. Harold Wilson. And Mr. Jeremy Thorpe, the Liberal Party leader, has been good enough to send us a card.
May I send my best wishes to London Broadcasting as you start transmissions. Every additional outlet for news, current affairs, and information is another window on the world. As one who believes in genuine competition, your advent to the world of broadcasting is a very healthy development. And I hope that your station and its staff will have a long, happy, and successful career to the benefit of all your listeners.
Mr. Jeremy Thorpe, happy birthday to us. Happy birthday to Lord Caradon, former UK representative at the United Nations, who's 65. Happy birthday to Dr. Christian Barnard, who is 50 years old today, and I trust in good heart. His own, I trust, as well. The time is just after 28 minutes past 6, so if you have to be into work by 7 o'clock, you've got about 32 minutes left. So hurry.
Take a pipe, St. Bruno rough cut tobacco, and discover how a pipe does something for a man. And St. Bruno does something more. It's ready rubbed, smooth on flavor. For you and your pipe, St. Bruno rough cut.
London Weekend Television, congratulations and welcome to London Broadcasting. We wish you good luck and success in the exciting challenge of launching independent radio broadcasting for the first time in this country. From your colleagues and friends in independent television, good luck and well done.
If you'd like to find out how an avalanche is helping to sell transistors to industry, call Marstella, the world's biggest industrial advertising agency. Marstella.
Want to know what's going on in the world of show business? Get all the latest news of the theatre, films, TV and pop from London's top writers in London's Evening News.
Half past 7, 6:30 rather on LBC News Time.
Good morning, it's 6:30 and this is Josephine Bacon with the LBC News. The Middle East War. President Nixon has returned unexpectedly to Washington from Florida to take control of an American attempt to stop the war. A meeting of the United Nations Security Council has been called for 8:30 tonight British time, following an urgent request from the United States. The Americans fear that more Arab states will join in the war if it is allowed to continue. The Security Council will be meeting at 8:30 tonight, our time. Fighting in the Middle East continues. While the Israelis claim to be holding the Egyptians back, they admit the Syrians have gained some ground, but they still claim supremacy in the air on both fronts. And the GLC Transport Committee chairman predicts a crisis in bus and tube services. She blames the government for withholding wage increases to London transport staff. That was the news at 6:30. Next news at 7 o'clock. Headlines again at 10 to 7.
Today, the Great Motor Show contest starts in the Daily Mail. You could win a fabulous Citroën Maserati, one of Europe's most advanced cars, a Ford Cortina, a Hillman Avenger, an Austin Allegro. In fact, there are 11 great cars to be won, starting in today's Daily Mail.
Let's go, British Caledonia.
Let's go to South America. British Caledonian carry the flag from Gatwick to Rio de Janeiro, Sao Paulo, Buenos Aires and Santiago twice weekly, plus Recife every Thursday.
Hello, everyone. I'm now going to tell you the story of Freddie the Frog and his friend Francis. Are you sitting comfortably? Then I'll begin. You're not? Then may I suggest you go and buy something to sit on made by Schreiber? Schreiber have become Britain's leading furniture maker by designing things that are as beautiful to use as they are to look at. And they make beautiful easy chairs and sofas. And not until you are sitting on a Schreiber easy chair or sofa will I tell you about Fred and his friend Francis. So there.
It's 21 minutes to 7 on the morning show, the show that breaks it to you gently, your update on the day. My name is David Jessel, and with me is Laurie West, fresh from his hut on the LBC roof, to give us details of what sort of weather day we've got ahead of us.
Hello, David. Yes, the bleary eye of the post office tower was winking in the distance, and I came in this morning, and this augurs well for today. At the moment, it's fairly cloudy, overcast to the south and east of London, but to the west, that's over London Airport in the Slough area, some breaks are already showing up. Now, these breaks in the cloud could give rise to some mist patches, which may become a little more widespread in the next 2 or 3 hours. But at the moment, it doesn't look troublesome for motorists. Once these have cleared, however, it promises to be a bright, and ladies with your laundry, a dry day with some spells of sunshine. In fact, some areas may even get a good deal of sunshine. And as a result, the temperatures will rise to about 63 Fahrenheit or 17 centigrade. They were just 64 and 18 yesterday. And the winds are light and variable, L and V, lunch inverter if you like, but they'll increase and become southwesterly later in the day. And unless it's too early to think about barometers, it should be reading 1024 millibars or 30.24 inches, and it's rising. Does that be enough, David? I'm coming back at 11 minutes past 7.
That's fine, Laurie. Thank you very much. London depends on you, Laurie, so make sure you get it right. And I hope you will begin to depend on us to help you on your way into work in the morning. We'll be giving you regular news of commuting conditions. And right now we have news of the traffic as it's building up for the morning commuter rush. Here's David Filsell from the AA. In just a moment, here comes David Filsell from the AA.
Adverse weather conditions have been received in the Greater London area. There was some early morning patchy
I
fog
expect it was like this in the early days of the BBC, and they did after all.
Hampshire and in Wales. The main problem for motorists this morning are likely to be roadworks, and we've got a list of 5 major roadworks which could cause problems. The Streatham High Road, the A23, at Streatham Railway Station, southwest 16, the road width is reduced and traffic could be subject to delays this morning. Angel Road, part of the North Circular Road, at the junction with Montague Road, Edmonton, there's reconstruction work going on there, and that again may cause serious delays this morning. The London-bound carriageway of the M2 motorway is closed for a stretch of about 3 miles around junction 6. That's the Faversham turn-off. Single-line traffic in both directions will be operating on the eastbound carriageway. The A13 New Road at the junction with Ballards Road, Dagenham, road width is again reduced here and traffic is subject to delay. Harrow Road, northwest 10, between the junctions of Wrotsley Road and Hazel Road, there's a gas main repair with shuttle signals and delays are expected. We've also had reports that the westbound carriageway of the Hammersmith flyover will be closed overnight on Monday the 8th of October from about 8 p.m. until 6 p.m. This closure will be repeated on Tuesday and Wednesday nights, the 9th and 10th. And lastly, a new one-way system which comes into operation this morning at Braintree in Essex. All drivers approaching the town centre are urged to watch for new sections of one-way streets and to follow direction signs. So there you are from the AA at Stanmore this morning. Now I hand you back to David Jessel.
David Filsall, thank you very much indeed. And the time on London Broadcasting is 17 minutes to 7. And if I get those hours wrong again, I promise to pay, every time I do it, 5 pence to the charity of your choice. That is going to cost me over the year. Well, as I was saying right at the beginning of the programme, the day is dominated by 2 major stories. The Arab-Israeli war, which we talked about a few minutes ago, and of course on the home front, Mr Heath's Phase 3 proposals, which he'll be announcing to an expectant nation on the telly and on LBC this afternoon. Well, since it hasn't actually happened yet, you can hardly call it a development, but it doesn't stop us hazarding a few guesses at what is, after all, going to affect all of us one way or another. Obviously, no government minister is going to jump the prime ministerial gun by giving us a comment on Phase 3 before before it's even published, not even for LBC on our birthday. But for some well-informed speculation, Gerald Luke asked a former minister, Mr. Bill Deeds, Conservative MP for Ashford, what he expected from this afternoon's package. And I noticed that London may be on the receiving end of some of the package's sweeteners. According to yesterday's Sunday Times, something may be done to make the new rules more flexible for things like London Transport, to help the situation where London Transport is on average 12% understaffed, and doesn't it show? And the teacher shortage in London may be eased, according to the Sunday Times fly on the wall in the printer's shop of Her Majesty's Stationery Office, because under Phase 3 things may be made more attractive for teachers in the London area. The time is just coming up to 11 minutes to 7.
International service?
Listen here, sweetheart. I want to make a call to Chicago, and I want to make it fast.
Well, sir, the fastest way is to dial direct on your own phone, using the international code.
Say, you're pretty smart. Okay, just give me the number for Chicago and leave the rest to me.
Well, the Chicago number...
And forget you talk to me, see?
Yes, sir.
Keep the world talking as an international telephonist. See our ad in the papers this week, or call 248-4856. 248-4856.
Lester Piggott wins again, this time the world's biggest racing prize, and Peter Scott of the Daily Telegraph naps the Cambridgeshire winner at 14-1. Read Peter Scott on racing only in today's Daily Telegraph.
Leslie Heath & Co., chartered surveyors, valuers and estate agents, have moved to new and larger premises in Lincoln's Inn Fields. So for all types of property valuations and structural surveys, ring 405-5465. That's 405-5465.
Exactly 10 minutes to 7, and here are the LBC headlines. Israeli forces now seem to have trapped considerable Egyptian armoured forces on the east bank of Suez. According to Israeli sources, a mopping-up operation is now in effect. Libyan leader Colonel Muammar Gaddafi has pledged money but denied support to the Egyptian-Syrian offensive against Israel. The youthful Gaddafi will send no troops, because he disagrees with the strategy and the tactics of the offensive. A 68-year-old pensioner from Oxted, Surrey, who yesterday shot a policeman in the face with a shotgun, will be arraigned in court today. During NATO exercises yesterday, a Soviet shadow destroyer accidentally fired one of its torpedoes. Despite early reports to the contrary, the Royal Navy later said there was no question of the torpedo having been fired at a specific target. Prime Minister Heath will unveil his plans for Phase 3 of the government prices and incomes policy during a press conference this afternoon. He's expected to ease pay controls and get tougher on prices. A 36-hour reprieve for 8,000 Chrysler's workers. Electricians at the Linwood plant in Scotland have decided to stay on the job today and tomorrow, pending a decision by electricians at the Coventry plant tomorrow night. The full bulletin coming up in about 8 minutes.
The traditional image of the Conservative lady is a woman in a flowered hat at a garden party. But how true is that picture? Conservative women talk about their struggle to get their point of view taken seriously within the party in tonight's edition of World in Action. There are only 15 Conservative women MPs in the House of Commons. Are selection committees anti-feminist? Watch Granada's World in Action on independent television tonight at 8 o'clock.
Who caters to your food budget? Caters, of course, with the kind of specials on quality foods you can't afford to miss. This week, Caters specials include shoulder of Devon lamb, only 34p per pound, Caters dairy butter, 18.5p per pound, Cox's orange pippins, 9p per pound, Heinz baked beans, 6.5p. Come to Caters today. They're specialists in fresh food.
At Caters Friendly Food Store, we always try to save you more. At Caters Friendly Food Store.
8 minutes to 7 on LBC, Bags of Time. Judo, karate, and now kung fu joins the list of cult sports which embody the gentle art of potential murder. The vogue seems to have been started by a new film which, to judge from its trailer, seems to involve a lot of people jumping around and kicking each other in the teeth. The youngest kung fu aficionado must be 12-year-old Sean Rogers, a London schoolboy who limbers up by breaking roof tiles with his head. That's always nice for a youngster to have a profession. Well, you never know when it might come in handy.
5 sendings off and 40 names taken in football on Saturday, but it's spreading to rugby as well. 2 Saturdays running. 9 days ago, Nick Martin was sent off. He was also asked to leave one of our older universities a little earlier in his career for bricking up the Bridge of Sighs at St John's College, Cambridge. This Saturday, John James, the London Welsh lock forward, was sent off. The referee on both occasions was a gentleman called Sensen. He must have something against lock forwards, I think. Boxing, a subject near to your heart.
Boxing, very far away from my heart. A totally disgusting sport, so keep it brief.
Well, once dangerous, now discredited and disbelievable Den McAlinden fights tonight the Mexican heavyweight champion Mongol Ortiz. Ortiz efforts, you may ask, to end in victory. Should do, because Ortiz was beaten by Beppe Ross on points. You remember Beppe Ross, who fought Bugner last week?
Particularly disgusting match, yes.
Originally, disconsolate Dan was due to fight an American called Jerry Hink, but close examination of the form book showed him to be a bit useful, so Mr. Mongol was hired. Depending on the result and the running order of the fight, and if McAlinden is still standing, he'll be very interested in another fight on the bill, Bunny Johnson against Richard Dunn, an eliminator, in fact, for McAlinden's title.
Briefly, any racing? Our listeners may like to know that we've been in fantastic form during the rehearsals for this programme. We've tipped a 30-to-1 double at one point, didn't we? So let's see if we can do any better.
Yeah, we had a 30-to-1 forecast, which wasn't bad.
when we weren't on the air.
Well, you've heard
You'll never believe us.
You've heard that Leicester won the Prix de l'Arc de Triomphe, £150,000. Very cool, very nice. Allez France was second, and Ryan Gold, which won it, should have had no chance at all with Allez France, but in fact won. But let's not forget that in Czechoslovakia, a 4-to-1 shot, Stevens Society, won the Grand Prix de Pardubice, which was in fact the Czechoslovakian Grand National, 4.5-mile steeplechase. Chris Collins won that.
Well, we'll be tipping horses in our later sports roundup. The news bulletin now is only 2 minutes away.
I want Cross, and I want him burned.
Scorpio.
If you get Cross, you get his job.
Scorpio.
Run, Cross. As fast and as far as you can. You've nothing but enemies.
When Scorpio wants you, there's no place to hide. United Artists presents Burt Lancaster and Alain Delon in Scorpio, the most incredible manhunt of them all.
Certificate A, North London, now.
Do you know what's a nice thing to brighten up your day? Use Pledge on your furniture. Pledge has real wax polish, so that when you've finished and the light from the window shines in, it shows you for the rest of the day just how much you've cared.
Let the sun come into your life, bring in the sun.
I use Pledge because it brightens up the drabness. You know, my boy came home from his friend's house the other day and said, I don't like to say anything nasty, Mum, but Jim's mum doesn't keep her house as nice as you do. You think they don't notice, but they do. I was ever so pleased.
Let the sun come into your life, bring in the sun.
Pledge. It shows you've cared.
Today, the Great Motor Show contest starts in the Daily Mail. You could win a fabulous Citroën Maserati, one of Europe's most advanced cars, a Ford Cortina, a Hillman Avenger, an Austin Allegro. In fact, there are 11 great cars to be won, starting in today's Daily Mail.
I want Cross, and I want him burned.
Scorpio.
If you get Cross, you get his job.
Scorpio.
Run, Cross. As fast and as far as you can. You've nothing but enemies.
When Scorpio wants you, there's no place to hide. United Artists presents Burt Lancaster and Alain Delon in Scorpio, the most incredible manhunt of them all.
Certificate A, North London, now.
This is the London Broadcasting Company, LBC, the independent voice of radio where the news comes first.